What's up, guys, and welcome. It's Inferno-kun here with another Walking Dead Season 3 discussion. This one's gonna be about the Kenny endings, like I said I'm gonna do, and whether or not you stay inside of Wellington with AJ and Kenny walks off into the forest alone, or you go with Kenny into the forest with AJ and your 2 bags of supplies, which is the one I guess most people prefer because people like Kenny a lot. So let's go ahead and evaluate what is going to happen with these 2 scenarios. Now let's start with the whole leave Kenny and go into Wellington with the AJ. Now obviously I want to know what's going to happen to Kenny. He's going to be out there in the forest alone. He has supplies, so he'll be able to actually survive for a while if he wants to, and he had the possibility that he could come back into Wellington whenever they start letting people in who were turned down. Now for the most part, Edith said that it would take a few months for them to actually let people into Wellington. So whether or not Kenny will actually come back, if he'll actually survive that long, I mean, I have faith in Kenny. If he's able to actually get out of an alleyway full of walkers, then yeah, that man could actually go ahead and survive a few months out in the forest. I mean, he literally is like so lucky after all he's been through, and he still, if he wants to come back to Wellington, if he wants to come see Clementine and AJ again, he has the strength and the mindset and everything else he's been through. He has the ability to come back once again and get back into Wellington. That would be cool for the most part if he actually comes back after a few months and sees Clementine and AJ again and is actually let into Wellington. That could be possible, and it would actually be pretty much interesting to see Kitty come back after the few months and he's actually back. So that'd be pretty interesting. I hope Telltale can actually do that. That'd be pretty cool. So let's move on to actually going outside of Wellington with Kenny and AJ and taking a bag of supplies. Now let's go ahead and talk about that. Now obviously you'll be out around Wellington. You'll be camping probably around there for a few months. There could be a time skip to where they actually come back to Wellington and are accepted in. You know, obviously they're gonna hang around it until the time is right, and they will probably invite, you know, all of Clem, AJ, and Kenny into Wellington. That'd be pretty cool. Like, it kind of depends on what I'm thinking right now. It's because like if you were to go in Wellington and Kenny were to go out in the forest, what would make that different from actually him coming, what will make it different from AJ, Clem, and Kenny going out into the forest and coming back later? There has to be something different about that, because if it's all going to end up the same with a time skip, like, you know, for example, Kenny goes out to the forest while Clem and AJ stay in Wellington, and then Kenny comes back a few months later and goes in, and then we have, you know, Clem, Kenny, and AJ leaving off to the forest and coming back later. You see what I mean? It all adds up. They will all 3 of them will be at Wellington with a time skip with a few months. Now, to make it different, I would be like, you know, what if Kenny doesn't survive out in the forest? What if he doesn't come back after the months of, you know, Wellington being open to new people? What if that doesn't happen? What if he doesn't make it back? That would be pretty different, because, you know, you'll have just Clem and AJ in Wellington. You won't have back then when you have, you know, Kenny, AJ, and Clem coming back from the forest, getting accepted into Wellington, and then having all 3 of them in there. So that's why I'm thinking it could actually be, because I don't see it actually ended up being the same way with the same choice, because Telltale doesn't really, it does sometimes do that with the whole, you know, with the Argo choice, you know, steal from him or not. It ends up the same way. They fire guns at you and stuff. So it kind of depends on what Telltale wants to change with this whole season 3. If they want to have more really different branching storylines. I mean, in an interview, I spoke with this before, Telltale said the ending that you chose in season 2 would matter in season 3. So to actually have that actually mean something, you know, it could actually make it a bigger decision, a bigger like consequence or whatever, to go with Kenny into the forest than rather staying at Wellington and being there and having Kenny go out to the forest by himself. What if he doesn't actually make it? What if he comes back not as planned and he's like, you know, probably coming back like a while later, other than coming back, you know, right when it's time for new people to come in? It actually depends on what Telltale wants to do with that. Now, I hope I'm not being confusing, but anyway, let's move on into Wellington itself. What will happen there? Because obviously, the whole season 3 is not going to be taking place in Wellington. I would kind of guarantee that, because what's the point of having this super safe haven for the entire series? You know, no walkers, no stuff happening. What if that has to be some bad stuff happening very sooner or later? Now, Wellington seems to be like this super safe, perfect safe haven that has a lot of people in it, and it seems to be the perfect place for a survival holdout. Now, what could make this not anymore? Because obviously something happens that could actually have Clementine, AJ, and possibly Kenny to go ahead and get out of there. What if they don't like what's going on there? What if there's some shady business going on there and they possibly have to leave there or something like that? What if bandits attack and they have to evacuate Wellington? There's many different scenarios. I don't really want to think of any right now because it's kind of a bit, you know, kind of iffy to think about, you know, possibilities of what will happen to Wellington, what will happen in Wellington, and other things like that. So let's keep, I don't want to just say random things, but yeah, I don't think this whole season will be at Wellington, because why would that happen? I mean, it's too perfect, it's too safe. They have supplies, they have food, they have everything you need. So that's a bit that's something that Telltale will ruin really quickly. So tell me your thoughts on Wellington. I want it to be more like the Motor Inn in a way. You know, they were there for the entirety of episode 2, kinda. They kinda used it as a backup holdout until they met the whole St. John's theory. But they eventually wanted to leave. Well, Kenny wanted to leave Wellington, not Wellington, but the Motor Inn. And in episode 3, they left the Motor Inn. So it could be that same situation where Wellington isn't safe anymore, and they have to go ahead and leave. So tell me your thoughts on that. Tell me your opinions on what happens to Kenny if he goes out by himself. What will happen to Clem, AJ, and Kenny if they all go out and come back later? Tell me your thoughts on Wellington. Is it safe? Is it, you know, this awesome place that could hold out forever? Tell me your thoughts and opinions on everything. It's actually a lot to this ending. It's actually a lot of different scenarios. It's pretty interesting, really. So tell me your thoughts on that. This has been Inferno Kun. If you guys did like the video, be sure to leave a thumbs up. It helps out a lot. And that is it. Thank you guys for watching. And I'm out.